Hello, what's up? We're live. It's Thursday. Welcome everyone for joining. Say hello in chat if you hadn't said hello already. Let me get this up here. Hello, Dane Clips. Welcome. I think you're a real person. You could be a bot. But anyways, yeah, we have a cool episode, a cool stream in store for everyone today. Most people think that they need more certifications on their resume to be competitive, but a lot of times it is just some tweaks on the resume, maybe improvements in your portfolio or LinkedIn profile that is going to make the world of difference for you. So that is what we're all about today. Hello, Chips and Harrison. Welcome to folks that will be hitting resumes on today. So we have 4 resumes. This is the most we've actually ever had on the stream. 4 resumes. We have one portfolio. So one of you guys, I have the portfolio pulled up. I also, hopefully Cam doesn't mind, I pulled up his portfolio as well. And then we'll look at some other portfolios on the web as well, and we'll talk about them. Awesome. Glad you're not a bot, Dane Clips. Who knows? You never know these days. But yeah, anyways, we got lots of different examples to look at, and we're going to explore. We're going to talk about them. And what I want to convey is that there's no right way to do any of these things, but we need to look at them in the way that the hiring managers and the HR people are looking at them, and it's going to help us better fine tune them to make sure they actually get looked at. And it's really all about marketing ourselves, the branding. I mean, you may have heard that term, you may have not. It's not just something for content creators out there, social media influencer. It's for everyone. Really, your branding is really a big thing. I think Simply Cyber does a really good job about talking about it as well. Hello, Matt. Hello. So we're going to talk about some of that today, and just getting that branding more consistent and really conveying things about you that are going to help people. Let me turn my phone on silent. Geez, so unprofessional. But really, surfacing all that cool stuff you're doing in a way that tells the story you want to tell, right? Because we can tell a big difference between a B movie versus like a blockbuster movie, right? And it usually has to do with the storytelling more than anything. So we want to make sure you are telling a blockbuster story and you get that job. Now, that's not to say this is all you need to do. There's a bunch of other components that'll increase your chances that you'll get a job that you want, but this is definitely one of the big pieces of it for sure. All right, folks, as with every stream, feel free to drop messages in the chat, especially those that I'll be talking about your resume. Please ask follow-up questions for me, and I'll make sure to answer them. And we got 2 hours, so we have plenty of time to really dive into each one of these resumes. We'll probably spend 15 to 20 minutes on each resume. I know a lot of time. That's why I asked if you minded if we did it on the stream, because I can spend a lot more time than a quick message in our Discord channel. Speaking of, if you're not a member of the Discord community, hop in there, add yourself. You can ask questions. We just had a huge update. I should have put that in my announcements. I'm getting much more professional at this thing. But yeah, you can get in there. We put a lot of updates last night and this week. I've actually done a ton of updates in there. So a lot of this content is going in there. So if you're not a subscriber, you can see new content. We're also going to be doing weekly challenges and monthly projects that go in line with the content that I'm putting out there, both on the InfoSec Wizard YouTube channel and in line with some of the stuff we're doing on C-Suite Cyber as well. So hopefully, and the goal here, right, is to help you build out your resume, build out the things so that your resume is much stronger, your portfolio is much stronger. Not only that, but you actually understand the stuff that you need to when you interview and when you get on the job. So we want to make sure you have what you need to be successful. They probably all have a delay because this is so. Dad Clips is asking about a delay. There's probably a delay everywhere because this goes through Riverside, so there's probably a slight delay, and it's usually like a second-ish, something like that. But check both and let me know which one has less of a delay. But anyways, yeah, we want to get your job ready. That's the whole point of InfoSec Wizard and the AM community, and it just stands for AJ and Mike. That's why we call it that. So yeah, let's go ahead and get the show on the road. Let's play. Who's going to be resume number 1. And also, my fiance hates my shirt. So it's a purple team shirt from Black Hills. She hates it, but I like it. Let me go ahead and share the screen. Let's dive into the first resume here. Here we go. And I'm just going to do it in Cali because why not? That's where we put everything. Let me adjust my screen. Can everyone hear me okay? Are we good to go today? All right. I think Harrison has both a resume and a portfolio. So let's use Harrison as the segue to get into the portfolio section. Let's do Gru. How do you say it? Gru Canoe? Gru Sanu? I don't know. But we have his resume here. Let's focus in. So again, we're looking at this as a hiring manager should or would. And I will tell you that every hiring manager is going to be slightly different, right? They're looking for different things versus the other. Yeah, if you have the portfolio, throw it in chat and we'll look at that during the portfolio section as well. But yeah, everyone's looking at these different, right? They have different needs. The jobs are different. They have different leadership styles, all that stuff. So there's a lot of different things that go into this. So just because I say I don't like something or just because I say I like something doesn't mean everyone is. But we'll do my best. And I was a hiring manager. I'm about to move on to a different role. But these are things I look at and I have been looking at for years. And many of the hiring managers that I know, my friends and stuff, look at resumes in a very similar way. So that's the perspective you're getting. All right, let's dive into the professional profile. Not everyone has one, but I encourage it because it's a good, kind of like the newspaper, right? When you read in the news, you got that bluff up at the top. I think it's a really good way to show off early on to catch the reader's eye and keep them interested. This is also a place where you can really get yourself in trouble if you overpromise, so be very careful there. Let's see if Gru's is good, in the middle, or really bad. All right, so aspiring cybersecurity analyst with strong technical foundation in Linux, networking, and cloud infrastructure security. It's not too bad. I would say a little weak on that first paragraph. First sentence. Let's see what else we got. Triple certified in CompTIA, Security Plus, Network Plus, Microsoft Azure Fundamentals with hands-on experience deploying Azure Sentinel Honeypot Labs, analyzing 70,000 real-world attack events and SIM monitoring fundamentals via TryHackMe SOC Level 1. Getting stronger here, definitely much stronger. Former QA game tester at EA, bringing a rigorous detail-oriented approach to threat detection, system hardening, and cloud security operations. Okay, so let's dissect this a little bit more here. I need to get where I have like a fun little pointer where I can circle stuff. I'll have to investigate that, see if I can do that in here. So let's start up here. So we have this piece here. I'd like to see it stronger in that it really makes people want to read on. Just saying you have a strong technical foundation doesn't really like perk up my ears, right? It make me want to read on. It's just kind of like, oh, okay. So think about the feeling that you want to evoke in a reader, because you are telling a story, right? We're telling a story here. Triple certified. So this is where I was saying it was getting a little bit stronger. That's pretty good. Security Plus, Network Plus, Azure Fundamentals. These are really good. These are really strong certifications for an entry level analyst. And then we have hands-on experience deploying Azure Sentinel Honeypot labs, analyzing a bunch of attacks. Okay. Hopefully we see something later on about that project so he can tell us more about it. But it definitely is like, okay, I wonder what he did here. And then SIM monitoring fundamentals via TryHackMe SOC level 1. So what I'd like to see is that he completed SOC level 1, and then that will be a really good talking point. So this says, hey, in Gru, what is the role you're looking for? Let me pull up Discord. Let me see if I can find what role you're looking for here. I don't see it in here. Are you going to be doing an analyst type role here? So this is actually okay, cybersecurity analyst. So are you talking about SOC analyst or GRC analyst? Because they are two different things, and you may see cybersecurity analyst used for both these days for whatever reason. And that leads me to a point to discuss really quick. Oops. If your resume is super vague and his isn't, right? Cybersecurity analyst, so it's pretty honed in. If it's super vague, you're going to have a very difficult time, especially with entry level roles, right? They make it a lot of people make it so broad that it's not applicable to the job they're looking for in a way that makes them a really competitive candidate. So for instance, right, if you're having all these engineering things, IT stuff, and it's more geared towards the IT space, but you're saying you want to be a SOC analyst, that's going to hurt you because now you'd probably be pretty good for an IT role, but a SOC analyst role, you might not be showing a lot of stuff. You're not doing that here, by the way, not saying you do, but I have seen that in a resume. So you want to make sure your resume is very much tuned for the job you're looking for, and that your studies are really focused in on that job as well, because that's another problem folks have early on is I love everything. They have that shiny object syndrome. They're chasing all these different things and they become really weak at a bunch of stuff versus strong in only a couple of things or very strong in one thing. So just keep that in mind, right? Instead of like slowly growing across the board, you could be doing this and become a really strong candidate for a particular type of role. Okay. So let's keep going. So not bad. And then QA game tester for EA. I would say that's not that great, but it kind of is a good talking point, right? I like that because I'd be like, hey, tell me about QA test game testing, because I think that would be cool to talk about in an interview. So that is a really cool talking point. That's why I like that piece. Cool. So not too bad. Not too bad. I'd make that first sentence stronger, more eye-catching. So think about that with that one. All right, certifications. He's got his certifications right here. Sorry, I keep scrolling and it's not a scroll with my little button, whatever it's called, my wheel. There you go. And something to think about here. So he doesn't have any experience, right? And so we've seen this a lot on resumes. And what he's doing to compensate for that is he's putting all of his relevant stuff higher up on his resume to compensate for that lack of experience. Definitely an approach I would advise other folks to take as well. If you don't have that experience, put all these other things that are more applicable first, because they're going to be more likely to catch the attention of hiring managers than your experience, where his professional experience is all the way at the bottom, than that, because that experience isn't necessarily useful to the role, right? In this case, a SOC analyst. All right, so next section is technical skills. We have a bunch here. Let's see if there's anything else useful. What I would like to see in this would be more blue team type things. So you have SIM, so you have Splunk and Elk specifically. I'd also like to see some stuff for like IDS, IPS, maybe some AV, EDR, things like that. Maybe even Wireshark. You don't have Wireshark in there. That would be a good one. I'm surprised you don't have that because you did that SOC level 1. I think they cover Wireshark in there. But one of the things you could do, and maybe I should create a GitHub for some of these suggestions I'm making, is you can look at all the job listings for the role you're shooting for. So in this case, SOC analyst, and make sure you have a lot of those tools and keywords, because that's really what you're doing here. Yes, you're listing tools somewhat for a human, but a lot of this is really keyword matching for the systems on the back end more than anything. And so you want to make sure you have enough of those there that you're hitting the asks for that job listing. Something to think about. And you can do that pretty quickly with AI, by the way. All right, drink break. Alrighty. So, next piece here, let's look at his labs and projects. So he has two. He has a Sentinel honeypot GitHub one here, deployed intentionally expose stuff. Real world SMB brute force attacks, 4625s. 70,000 failed login attempts. Likely associated with Ukrainian entities, opportunistic scanning activity built-in, custom AQL analytic, rule generating, automated incidents. So as a hiring manager, if I were looking at this, you are a candidate for my SOC, I would not be too impressed by this. And I'll tell you that because I don't really see where you did a ton with this. You just turn on some stuff and you're looking at things. I like for you to tell the story about kind of how you were pushing boundaries, you kept adapting in the lab, the big things you learned in here. Instead of really, I read this and say, okay, he turned it on, he got some login, he just saw a bunch of failed login attempts. You know, one of the fun things like you'll hear like a marketing person say, especially for businesses, and so what, right? So you did all this, and so what? Ask yourself that. And I don't think you have a really compelling argument here for this lab and so what answer, but I think you could. I imagine you did a lot more interesting things than you have listed here. So this would be an area that I would look to bolster up and make it sound more interesting, right? Just failed logins isn't that cool, isn't that interesting for a SOC, but you know, there's probably other things you could have done, other types of analytics, maybe pattern matching, maybe I don't know. There's a lot of stuff you could be doing with a honeypot. I tell that story instead and talk about, maybe show the project. It looks like you have a GitHub link here. I'd be interested to see that. Maybe we'll see that in the portfolio section, but tell a better story. I think you got a better story here. You just need to tell it and convey it better. All right, so try hack me. SOC level 1, path completed. SIM monitoring, log analysis, incident response, completed Mr. Robot, CTF room. So the question is, did you actually complete SOC level 1 path? Let's take a peek and see what else is in there. Let's see. I want to pull you up here. This is my old one. All right, let's see. What I'm doing is I'm looking for the SOC level 1 path. Let's see what's in it. Here it is. I'm like so zoomed in, it's really hard to see. So that's Sal. So you have all these, introduction of phishing. So question is, did you finish it? Because if you finished it, like I said, you would have gotten a lot more stuff here. Black cat, so there's another one there. Okay, So there's a lot more. So it sounds like you actually didn't finish the SOC level 1 path. I'd make that stronger as well. And the great thing about Try Hack Me and really any of the other labs is that you can continue to fill in the gaps of knowledge that you have as a SOC analyst, right? If you're reading these different resumes and you're asking yourself, what don't I understand in order to be a better SOC analyst? Dive into that and do it. Definitely ask in chat if you're not sure where to go. Happy to answer those questions. But yeah, I would definitely like you to strengthen your cybersecurity development and labs. Yeah, definitely stronger there. It doesn't do a lot for you, unfortunately, and it should be doing a lot more for you. All right, so this other stuff, Apex Legends tester, that's cool. Manage bug triage, patch validation using Jira TestRel. So he's dropping in some fun buzzwords there. Collaborated to ensure resolution. Cool, not too bad. All right, competition and achievements. Unbreakable Romania, National CTF Team Edition. Actively competed in team-based environment. Successfully exploited race condition. So it sounds like you only answered these 2 challenges in the CTF. Yeah, I'd like for you to bolster this too. CTFs can be really, really good. I like to see you strengthen this. If these are the only 2, cool. If your team plays really well, even better. If you can talk about the difficulty of these challenges, even better. But just talk about, really, you want to convey that you learned a lot, you progressed really well, and you did more than just the very, very easy CTF answers. If it's the national CTF, typically those are a lot more in the really, really complicated range, but this may not be that type of national CTF. I don't know. But like, say, the ones needed to get into the DEF CON CTF, they're freaking hard. I don't know if this is one of those. I don't know if anyone's ever looked at the DEF CON CTF. It's insane. Takes a lot of people. It takes a lot of talent to get there, a lot of practice and all that. So that's like one. If you did one of those, I can't remember what the word is, where you like qualifiers. There you go. If you compete in one of the qualifiers and do well, great thing to put on your resume too. I promise I'll look in chat in a second. And then we have a degree of some sort. Sorry, I've never seen a Romanian degree. I think this is a bachelor's of science, perhaps. That's pretty cool. But cool. So he put in there, and he also put his language. He also put in English, C1 advanced, near native fluency. Cool. So there you go. There's your review. The big things are strengthen that first sentence a little bit better. You need to add some more SOC skills into your technical skills. Improve your labs. And then also, if you have any more information that kind of highlights the cool factor of your CTF, add that in there. Otherwise, I don't see any other improvements on this. Let's look at chat real quick. Let's see. Philippe just got a new job as a help desk engineer. Do you want to check out? Didn't we just check your resume, Philippe? Have you made any more adjustments? And then Chip says, went ahead and put the GitHub in the resume roast section for whenever I have another 3 or so investigative projects coming that will hit that storytelling very well. Cool. I'll check that out. I think I just saw that pop up. And then Blind says, let's throw this one in chat. Hello, can you help me? I have a computer science engineering degree, CompTIA Security Plus, and I'm doing Blue Team Level 1, applying for jobs. HR automatic filter block me. What do you think I need to do more of? Well, you probably need to complete some of those. I'm not sure what your resume looks like, but you might not be hitting some of those minimum qualifications. Let's see. I was thinking about doing SC200 or some projects to add in my CV. What do you think? Yeah, throw your resume up on one of these and we'll do a resume for you blind. Um, it's hard to say with just those things, right? A lot of people tend to apply for these very experienced roles. Like I've seen all over LinkedIn where they're like, I've applied for 2,000 roles and I don't get any callbacks, but the chances are 99.99% of those require 5+ years of experience or 3+ years of experience, and that's why they're automatically getting rejected. They're applying for roles that aren't looking for people like them. Not to say that there aren't any roles looking for them, there's just a lot fewer entry level SOC roles. That's where you're going to be competitive. All these higher level ones, most of them are going to be a waste of your time. Sorry to bust your bubble. They are. And you're going to be lucky if someone is willing to look at it. Yeah, if you would like to also, so when you drop your resume, if you want me to look at it, give me an example of the type of jobs you're looking at. Um, Yeah, some do that. Some do that. Sometimes you just get rejected for no reason. I was out looking for a job recently too, and my resume more than matched it actually matched every requirement on the thing, and I still get rejected. So sometimes it's just stupid stuff. Who knows? Some of it's just a mystery back end. Um, I typically rely a lot on my network connections to get job interviews. That's where most of my job interviews come from, believe it or not. Um, yeah. Sometimes those two ones, those are good ones to apply for. Actually, for a junior candidate, if it just says minimum 2 years, that's probably one I would consider applying for. That's probably a good use case there. All right, so we're done with this resume. Would I interview this candidate? Is the question we usually ask at the end of these. Um, would hiring manager Mike interview this person? This would be an iffy one. Just because I would say, just by the look of this, you haven't completed this, and I would look for people who have completed at least one of these paths. And I tell you that simply because it's a lot easier for me to train someone if they're starting at a much further down the journey than someone who's just coming straight out of college with nothing. I would say this is iffy, but you also wouldn't be very competitive as is right now without this being completed. So I would shoot to complete this path, maybe even get one of those SOC level 1 type certifications. So you got Blue Team level 1, Hack the Box has one, and then Try Hack Me has one. Get one of those on the resume, and that'll make you a lot stronger. And the reason I say that is because I get almost every resume I've seen I've done one thing, and we were interviewing everyone who did labs for a while, and they didn't perform well in the interview. They performed not too well, and a lot of folks are out there. Well, why don't you just interview everyone, give everyone a shot? I will tell you, you're eating up you eat up a lot of time. So me as a business person, right? You're eating up a lot of my team's time if we're spending all this time interviewing folks, right? Because it's an hour for each one of my guys that I could be using to improve our plays. So we started getting pretty good at narrowing down who we would want to interview because we've gotten that experience where we know if this candidate doesn't have this, they're just definitely not going to perform in our technical interview. So we look for more developed people. So something to consider, right? So this would be me lightly leaning to no, but if you were to add one of those completed paths or something like that, then I'd be like, yeah, let's give them a shot. Then we'd do that. So hopefully that makes sense, Screw. You're like a name changer, man. You're just morphing. You're morphing. We'll check your portfolio out once we get through these resumes, and we'll do that as well. Sound good? All right, so let's look at the next one. Feel free to drop some more questions in the chat group, and we'll get to them. We'll get to them after this one. All right, so we have another cybersecurity analyst. I'm assuming this one is also a SOC analyst. And again, I'll just repeat, if you look at job listings, a lot of times the cybersecurity analyst focuses more on GRC stuff than the SOC. So just so you know, check it out if you don't believe me. Also, make sure if you're not following me on Twitch or YouTube, whatever you're watching me on, make sure you do that and join the community too if you want to continue the interaction after the stream is over with throughout the week. We're there to help you. All right, back to the show. All right, so this person has chosen to go with a professional summary much further down. So he's moving his projects and certifications to the top. So he's placing prioritization on that. So it's pretty interesting. So first project, Splunk SIM log analysis and alerting lab. There's a link here. So it probably goes to some sort of portfolio, I imagine, on GitHub. Built a Splunk SIM lab and Windows VM to analyze Windows logs authenticating activity, then created a failed authentication alert and dashboard to improve monitoring visibility. All right, Windows Security and Active Directory EDR lab, built Windows 11 Active Directory lab to investigate suspicious account activity using Sysmon and Splunk to investigate, analyze logs and PowerShell activity. So this one actually doesn't make sense to me. So it's an EDR lab, but you don't mention EDR in the summary. So that's kind of odd to me. So it's an EDR lab, but you utilize Sysmon and Splunk. Splunk is the SIM, Sysmon would be the logs. You have also PowerShell activity, but you don't mention EDR logs. So that's kind of interesting. I think that's an incongruency there. Firewall troubleshooting and packet analysis lab, built and investigated segmented network lab using pfSense, firewall, Wireshark, Linux, Windows 11 to analyze connectivity issues, identified a LAN side firewall misconfiguration, restored connectivity, and documented findings in this inspired report. Okay, so let's talk about labs one more time here. The problem that I have with most folks' labs that we've seen is that there's really no difference between the labs you're calling projects versus labs you would do in school or a small module you would do on TryHackMe. Meaning you're following a walkthrough, but you're not really working those troubleshooting steps that you would do if you are actually doing a real project, right? If I was at work, gave you a project and said, hey, build out this Splunk SIM, right? Make it useful for work. You're going to learn a lot more doing that than you would just following this guide at work, right? I added all these logs, then I adjusted the config to make sure we were getting these. I ran into an issue where we were using up our storage capacity too fast, so we trimmed down the type of logs, and then we were able to collect logs for 12 months. Like, you see the difference there. One is I'm solving a problem, but I'm learning a ton along the journey. These are, I just did an hour lab. I got some exposure. Boom, done. One stronger versus the other. And I definitely encourage you, if you ever have the chance to add and build onto these labs and turn them into real projects, I definitely encourage that, because these are things we're looking for, right? Like exposure. This is the same problem we have with a lot of college candidates in the interview stages. They go through all these labs, and they go through similar labs in college, but then we put them in an interview and ask them questions about these labs. They don't know what they learned. They don't know how to answer the questions, even though we're really talking about the same things. We're asking about these things. So one, they just got some exposure. On the other side, we're looking for people that not only got exposure, but actually learned something along the way enough. They explore the topic. They push the boundaries a little bit to gain more understanding, to understand how all the components work. That's what we're looking for in the workplace. So I definitely encourage you, if you are doing these, right, you get into an interview, they're going to ask you about this stuff. And I will tell you, and I'm not even exaggerating here, 99% of the time, if I were to interview someone with this, I ask them about the lab, they're going to say, I don't know, I did it a really long time ago. That doesn't help your case at all. You just really hurt yourself. You did all this work, you didn't learn anything that was applicable or that you could talk to in an interview. This really hurt you. It could have strengthened you if you answered the question you dove into, like, oh yeah, I learned this. I thought this was really cool. I ran into these problems. I was able to overcome it. You had a story you could tell, right? A journey you could tell as part of your story, but you didn't. So these are things you really need to be careful of. And when I talk about telling your story in the resume and conveying that journey, that's what I mean here in the projects. They don't get me excited about hiring you. It's like, okay, I just look at this and I'm like, okay, it's just something like they would have done in college. You know what I mean? That's what I read when I read write-ups like this. Now, when we look at portfolios, I know we don't have but so much space in the resume. I get that. When we get to portfolios, hiring managers are really going to look at those, I promise you. And that's a place where you can really dive in and paint that story even clearer for them. So we'll talk about that later. All right. So, projects, didn't really do a lot for me. Training and certifications. All right, we have Security Plus, Google Cybersecurity Certificate, Microsoft Azure Fundamentals, Let's Defend SOC Analyst Learning Path. Let's see what they did with the learning path here. Hands-on SOC training using custom ticketing environment, completed 20 plus investigations. So did you complete the Let's Defend path? That's what I would ask with this. If it's completed, I would convey that you completed it, because in my mind, I'm questioning. You just said you did it and you completed a certain number of investigations, but I don't see that you actually completed that pathway. Cyber defenders in progress, hands-on blue team training, focus on SOC analysts. So that's going to strengthen your resume even more. If you can say you completed the Let's Defend path, that's going to strengthen your resume. With those two on here, plus your Security Plus, that would be interviewable in my book. And if we had a bunch of candidates with similar circumstances having a stronger practical projects list and portfolios, going to raise you up the top of on my priority list of who I want to get to first. So we'll look at your IT support analyst. I will tell you that I don't necessarily prioritize people with IT experience. And that's simply because I haven't seen a huge value add from people with 3, 4, even 10 years of experience in IT versus someone with a degree in cybersecurity. I haven't seen it. I know everyone in their brains, especially those from IT background, are screaming, but we have IT experience. In a practical sense, for SOC analysts, I have not seen a vast difference in capability. So for me personally, I wouldn't prioritize someone with IT support over someone else. I would prioritize people with the labs and the stuff I'm telling you I'm looking for over, like seeing that stuff over the experience in IT. Just to put that out there. I know people are telling you get into IT first, get that help desk job. Cool, I get it. It does help for HR to some degree, but for someone hiring for the technical role, it doesn't give me a ton of value add. Just historically, I have not seen it. I've been in this game for 10 years. I haven't seen it. Same with a master's degree. I haven't seen the value add of a master's degree in an entry-level job. Haven't seen it. They actually are more of a pain in the behind, the master's degree students, than anything, just because they're typically not as coachable because they have their masters, right? They know everything. That's typically how they are, unfortunately. There are some good people with master's degrees. Don't get me wrong, but that's typically how they get when they come in. Anyways, off my soapbox. We do have a question from Blind. Can you give like 2 big projects that add value for the SOC? We'll talk about it in the portfolio section, Blind. Promise, we'll get there. But good question. I'll throw that up on the screen for folks. All right. So let's talk about technical proficiencies here. So this is kind of his buzzwordy section, his keywords. So for that AI for the automated systems, this is where it's going to help. I would here, just like our last resume, I would add more stuff, more keywords from the SOC. So this is easy to do. If you have a job listing, just feed it into AI, ChatGPT, Claude, whatever you want. Feed in your list of what you have. Maybe even feed in a long resume. That's what I like to do. I have a really lengthy resume and I say, here's my job listing, fine tune my resume for this. And I do it that way because I don't want it to hallucinate and add stuff I don't actually do. So we do want to stay true to it, but we want to make sure we're hitting those keywords so our resume makes it through the system. So that is a big thing I would do here. Update your keywords here for stuff that is very applicable for the SOC role. You're not doing that well. Okay, professional experience. Oh, I thought that was your resume experience. Sorry, profile. Professional summary. Let's read this real quick. IT support analyst, troubleshooting IT systems, resolved account access, authentication. Okay, experience, incident management, escalation, support, crypto. I would change your professional summary significantly because I looked at it and I thought it was your professional experience. Your summary is basically the elevator pitch of your resume. And I would say I would still move this up to the top just because it is your elevator pitch. And I would fine tune this to say, this is why I think you should take a chance on me. That's what you're trying to convey here. This is why I am going to be able to kill it if you hire me. That's what you want to convey here. So work on that, make it a lot stronger. You could do bullets if you want. Paragraphs are the more traditional approach there that I've seen most of the time. All right, so back over here, professional experience, IT technician, pretty much the same stuff from over here, connect-wise. Not something like I personally am not going to pay too much attention into professional experience. If all I see is IT technician, IT support, I'm just going to gloss over it and ignore the rest. Unfortunately, just being honest here. Same with like the Walmart, you were a sales associate. For like, this is exactly what I do for roles that aren't applicable to my job is I don't even put anything in there. I just put it on there so there aren't any gaps because that is a big thing with HR. You don't want gaps in your resume. So that's what I do, just so they're in there. So other than that, there's no improvement. He kept the space minimum because the experience wasn't super applicable. HR people will read this and look at it. They'll like it. Hiring manager wise, they're going to probably be close to me unless they were IT people, and then they may enjoy seeing that. I wasn't really an IT person. I was an intern and then cybersecurity. But, people like other people like themselves, so they're going to look at this and have a conversation with you about it if they were IT support beforehand. All right, so education section. We have a bachelor's in information technology with a concentration in cybersecurity and digital forensics. That's a good talking point when you get in the interview. They'll probably ask you about the types of things you did with digital forensics. I always do. Relevant coursework. Okay. If you're running low on space, doing the relevant coursework isn't necessary. But it is okay to include if you want to and you have the space. So that's it for that one. Any questions, Chips? I know you're in here somewhere. You got a little bit of work to do. But once you get that Cyber Defenders course, you're going to be really, you're going to be in a good spot. Like I said, I prioritize these certifications and going through these labs more than anything, simply because I understand you don't know much if you're coming from IT, if you're coming out of college. But what I do know is that students or beginners who come into the workforce into cybersecurity who are already chewing up training, getting through all that, spending hours like learning, super motivated. Those people perform really, really well in my work environments, and I see them do some amazing stuff. Those are the type of people I prioritize. That's why you always hear me talk about the training and certifications and stuff, because I love the people that are just killing it. They're hungry, they want in the industry, and they know, like, they've already built that foundation. It's going to be make my job so much easier because, like, I have tons of people, my current role, tons of people all over the world. I don't have a ton of time to teach people. They don't have a ton of time to teach people either. So it makes it a lot easier if we have people that already, have a good spot, a good starting point when they hit the ground, start getting access to stuff. So that's the 2 cents there. So Chip says he took a lot of notes. Awesome. Good. Feel free to follow up in the community with notes saying, hey, what do you think about the summary? What do you think about the technical proficiency stuff? Happy to continue that conversation with you, man. Let's see. Going to focus heavily on these project revamps. These are great tips. Cool. Yeah. Hopefully they help out. And like I said, once you finish up this course, that'll be really good. It will make folks more interested in your resume as well. All right. So that is resume number 2. Let's do resume number 3. See, I promised that we'd spend at least 15 minutes on each resume. And guess what? We are. Lots of time. This is the benefit to sending them into the community and saying, Mike, please roast it on the stream. You get lots of my time that I don't have a lot of. And we get to help other people because other people are struggling just like you. And so I want to help as many people as possible. This helps me do that. So I definitely appreciate you having the courage to let me do this live because it does take some courage to take criticism. But I will say those who can take criticism, those willing to grow and learn, again, are some of my favorite people to hire as well, because you're going to be growing so fast because you're open to taking feedback and you apply that feedback and it just compounds and snowballs and you become a crazy workhorse for me. That is just killing it. I love people like that. So good stuff. Awesome to see. All right. So resume number 3, let's dive in. All right. Cleared cybersecurity. So we have SOC analyst. Look at this person. This person shouted it out. We have Matt. Matt's resume. I think Matt's in here. Hi, Matt. I think you've been in chat. All right. So cleared. He's got some kind of clearance. Cool. Good for you. That will make it a lot easier for you to find clear jobs. If you haven't, there's a couple of websites out there specifically for that. So it's really, really good stuff. Hey, Albert. Welcome to the show. Just call me, what's this called? Just call me B2009. Nice, dude. Is this the Albert I know from work or a different Albert? All right, so let's talk about this one. Let's see, CompTIA Security Plus certified with hands-on experience in SIM monitoring, incident detection and response, log correlation, network security analyst. So we started throwing out a lot of keywords, right, that we're seeing in a lot of the job listings. Proven ability to design and operate segmented lab environments, simulated SOC operations, leveraging tools. So this is pretty strong, right? But we got to see if the rest of his resume supports it. So again, your resume needs to support your professional summary. Your professional summary is your elevator's pitch. To get people interested in reading the rest of the resume has to support that elevator pitch, or they're going to think you're a liar or just make stuff up. So there's that. Sweet. What's up, Albert? Matt, what's going on, brother? Sorry, I'm in class right now. Cool, man. Yeah, listen, try to do the 2 ears multitasking thing. If not, this is what is it? This is replayable. There you go. There's my words. I can't talk at the end of the day. So both Twitch and YouTube have this. So for everyone that I'm reviewing, feel free to go on there later and do the replays. It's fine. It's there. That's why we did it, so that you can go back and do it. What's up, Harem? Welcome back. And yes, yeah, throw it in. I don't think you can throw it in chat. If you can hop in Discord and throw it there, I can get to it, Albert. Not a problem, dude. Happy to help. But make sure you scrub information out just like these folks are as well. That way we don't do any data leakage there. Okay. Back to Matt's resume here. We got a pretty solid professional summary. Now we just need to make sure we support some of it. Well, we support all of it, right? Everything should have support to it. Certifications, we have CYSA Security Plus. This is really good for folks because he's cleared. So these two certifications makes him qualified. I was going to say certified, qualified for a lot of those entry-level roles in the government space, the U.S. government space. I know we have some folks from out of the U.S. So these are really good. You're good. You're qualified. You already have a clearance. Well, you're pursuing CYSA. With CYSA, you need CYSA with the Security Plus to qualify for an entry-level SOC role for most. It's like IAT level 1 or level 2, whatever. You do need them to qualify. That is a minimum requirement for most SOC type roles. If you got the CYSA, that would be the only one you need. But with the Sec Plus, you need one more. CYSA covers it, so you do need both to qualify there. So there you go. Hopefully that helps for other folks looking at government work as well. All right. Can everyone see my screen well? I feel like it's pretty small for people to see. I zoomed in, so hopefully it's better now. All right, so technical skills. We have Splunk, we have ELK, we have log analysis, log correlation. So here we're seeing him actually put in keywords that we would see in a SOC analyst job listing. So that's the key here. We want to align our resume with the actual job listing. So if you're ever wondering what you should be putting here, look at those job listings. And I highly advise every resume that you send out, tune these skills for the job listing you're looking at. They're all going to be different. Everyone prioritizes certain roles over others. Every shop is different. There is no one SOC built exactly the same. So these need to be tuned for every application you do. All right, so expected. So he's still in school. He doesn't graduate until May next year. So good for you. You're already well ahead. You're going to have, it looks like you have, you're going to have 2 certifications. Looks like you're already cleared. Maybe that's from being in the military, perhaps. Yep, that's exactly what it was. So we'll look at that in a second then. All right, so cybersecurity analyst, home lab environment. I will tell you, I'm very hesitant for people to do what you did here. I understand why you do it, but I don't know, man. It's not real experience. Typically, people only want to see real experience in these. Be very careful. For me, if I were to see this, I'm just ignoring it and going to look over here. So he has no experience. That's how I'm looking at it. I look at this, if it's home lab environment, I'm going to just ignore this and say it's lab time, and it should have been in a lab section. I understand why you're doing it, and I'm glad you made it very clear that it's home lab. Yeah, I don't know, man. I wouldn't do it like this, but I don't think you're going to get in trouble doing it this way. So we'll say that. Okay. So virtual lab environment using VirtualBox. Okay, cool. Bridge adapters. Deployed. That's not really a strong bullet. VirtualBox, sure. NAT bridge adapters. I mean, you just click the button, right? With that one. Simulated enterprise, network traffic, support. Not a very strong bullet, I don't think. Deployed configured ELK. Okay, stronger. Ingesting network log, SPL, KQL. Okay. I'd like to see that a little bit stronger as well. Build an integrated defense in depth architecture using OPN Sense. Unify firewalls with honeypot, enabling collection analysis of real world traffic, indicators of compromise. I'd like to see more about what this is. This would be a good case for a portfolio, describing more in depth what you did here. Configure, tune IDS, IPS detections across firewall platforms, analyzing alerts to identify malicious activity and support incident triage. This is another one I'm kind of like, typically when I see people, like I tune IDS, IPS detections across firewall platforms, because a lot of people, when I read that, most people just do some kind of like whatever, like things when they're doing it. It doesn't really mean a lot. That like in no shape or form would they be enterprise ready. So that's when I'm like, But again, something for the portfolio, I would love to see if you took it, to that next level, did some cool stuff outside of the lab. Like for instance, you took some threat intelligence, right, about, I don't know, some of this stuff coming out about these different groups. I think China has some, Iran has some out there, right? And then you turn that into detections for your firewall, for your IDS, IPS, even for your SIMs. That's cool. That's a cool project, building out a detection pipeline for your lab. That's a cool project. Configured, all right, we already said that one. Perform log analysis, IOC validation using SIM honeypot data, documented findings, correlating events. So this is interesting-ish, right? Again, in your portfolio, I'd like to see, what did you do with this data? Did you just collect it, or did you do anything cool with it? Because if you just collected it, not that big of a deal. If you did something cool with it, now it's a big deal. Or maybe if you discovered a new technique, or you're able to add additional information to some of the threat intel out there for other groups, and you built like a threat intel report, that's really cool, right? If you're doing honeypots, the whole point of a honeypot is to collect intelligence. So I would typically like to see some kind of attribution or some kind of report to go with that honeypot. Otherwise, it's, hey, I'm just doing an engineering task, right? An IT task versus a security task. Just my 2 cents there. Developed ELK in Splunk dashboards, analyzing 1,000 events a day, identifying top attack vectors, trends. Again, I'd like to see how complex this was. Some people are really good with dashboards. Other people aren't. Albert's really good with dashboards in here. Albert's really good, really creative. But that's the difference between someone just throwing up a crappy dashboard versus someone doing something meaningful and impactful with a dashboard. So again, not that great. I'd like to see what you did in your portfolio here. Developed a Python script to extract source IPs from Splunk logs, correlate them against OSINT threat intelligence databases, and produce actionable reports. This sounds like a cool project. I'd like to see this in your portfolio. What would also be even cooler is if you built the automation out in your SIM to do this. That would be cool. Something to think about there. All right, so let's look at his information here. So he really has zero experience in IT or security, and he's really leaning on his lab time, which is fine. This is pretty much what my resume looked like when I got into cybersecurity, except I had an internship at the top. But this is what it looked like when I was applying for an internship. So, and I was a grunt as well. He was in the Marines. Let's see what he did. It doesn't say Marine security guard, maybe an MP. Maybe an MP, or an MP, Matt? I was in the infantry, so we have nothing applicable to cybersecurity. But we can beat our head against a wall forever and never give up, because we'll make a dent eventually. That's the power of being a grunt. Okay, so would I interview this candidate? Let's end on that note with this resume. No, not yet. I would not interview this candidate yet. If he had a strong portfolio, I may reconsider. So if he showed me he has the skills, like has a good foundation coming into artillery. Matt's artillery, not MP. You're cooler, okay? I'll take that over an MP any day. um, maybe. So it just depends on the strength of his portfolio. Again, I would like to see one of those SOC labs in here, especially since he wants to be a SOC analyst. So um, finish up that CYSA, get into one of those training programs. You could, so again, try Hack Me, Hack the Box. I think Let's Defend has one, Blue Team Level 1. There's a bunch out there. Those four are probably the most well-known ones. Also, most affordable ones. OffSec has one now. I think it's kind of pricey though. But they're pretty good. I would add that. That would strengthen your resume. That with a really well done portfolio, you're going to be in good shape. So I guess the other question here, do I feel like your professional summary was supported well? Yes, I think so. I think it was supported well, except for those things I just spoke about. Those would make you much more competitive. You may be competitive with some organizations who lean into hiring vets, but I would say, especially without your CYSA, you may find it hard to even get a government role. You may be able to get an internship. That's why I did that first. I was able to get one at the VA hospital in Detroit. I also had an offer to the DOJ, was it? It's some other government agency. So you may find it easy to get an internship and then get an in at that company, Matt, especially because you're a vet. Government jobs are always going to be much easier for you. Also, look at being a govy, so a government civilian. They are very slim on people, and that may be a good way to get your foot in the door as well, because they are struggling to find people. I'm telling you, I have so many job listings out there. So something to think about, Matt. Yeah, cool. So that's that one. We have one more resume, unless Albert sent me his over. His is going to be a more experienced resume for you folks if he has it sent over. All right, 802. Harrison. Hello. Say hello in chat if you're here. Also, sorry, Matt, did you have any other questions that you wanted me to hit on before we move on to Harrison's? We'll give you a minute and we can hit them up after if you think of anything. Again, watch this on replay if you want. Take notes, hit me up in the community, and we'll take care of you, Matt. Also, AJ will be happy to help as well. We're both love to help our fellow vets. Both of us are vets. AJ, my C-suite cyber podcast co-host, he's a prior Air Force, so he just hung out at the what do they call it? He just chilled with his feet up in a hammock for however many years he was in. He didn't do anything. He was the Air Force. Let's see. What did Dang say? Do you mind me sending an improved version? It's also a complete different layout. Yeah, Matt. Yep. Not a problem. Yeah, you can send me an improved version. I think you are Gru, right? I'm looking through my... Yep, you are Gru. Yeah, you can send an improved version if you want. All right, let's go move on to Harrison. Let's get him in. I want to make sure we take care of everyone today and we get at least a few minutes, maybe 30-minute block on the portfolio so we can talk about that. All right, professional summary, security analyst with 4 years of experience. I feel like you're going to be in trouble with this, Harrison. I already feel it. I feel it in my bones. He doesn't clearly articulate what role he's looking for. So maybe, excuse me, maybe something to think about adding. What role are you actually looking for? And it could be my formatting. It may be in here somewhere. 4 years of experience securing hybrid Azure, Microsoft 365 environments using zero trust principles. So super buzzwordy. He's got cloud components and he's got zero trust and security analysts. All right, let's see if he supports it. Responsible for ensuring data integrity and implementing automatic sensitivity labeling for PHI, PI, PCI data. Sounds like some kind of DLP data steward type role in clinical trial environment. Proven expertise in hybrid identity architecture, conditional access, MFA, endpoint security, across 1,200 devices, experience in SOC operations, threat detection, incident response using Microsoft Sentinel and Defender with hands-on skills in vulnerability management, compliance, alignment, blah, blah, blah. All right, let me look. Harrison sent me an email. Let me see what he said. Resume providing feedback. Thank you. It's been really helpful. Potential job. So he's looking for SOC analyst 2, detection engineer, Azure cloud security engineer. So first off, buddy, 3 different resumes there. You sent me one. Again, you want to make sure your resume is aligned to the single job. Each one is, so I'm gonna put this in chat. These are the 3 types of roles he's looking at. There is no way, absolutely zero way to make a resume that hits all 3 of these. It's just not. There's no way. So, and I'm gonna put this up on the stream too so people can see it on the screen. There's no way. So you want to be very specific with these resumes, right? If you're talking about compliance, GRC type stuff, then you want to lean this summary more towards that. If you want to talk about detection engineering, get rid of the compliance crap. No one cares about that. Lean more into detection. If you want to talk about SOC analyst stuff, sure, maybe have a little bit of detection stuff, but who cares about zero trust? No one cares about compliance. You hear what I'm saying, right? This should be very finely tuned. Otherwise, no one's going to care about your resume. It's so broadly applicable, no one's going to look at it. Again, something I highly recommend is that you have a really massive resume, and this is kind of like your default that you have, and then you use it with chat and say, hey, here's the job listing, fine tune my resume for this job listing. Then it's going to mix and match and figure out what needs to go into a resume that would be very competitive for that job, right? We're talking in terms of competitiveness, okay? It's like saying, hey, I'm gonna put this guy into playing soccer, right? But he's not really good at dribbling, but he can kick the ball across the field. Okay, so we need to make sure he stands in place before we give him a ball. Hey, he's really good at blocking balls with his hands, okay, but he can't dribble and he can't kick, so we probably need to put him in the goalie, right? So your resume is going to determine what position on the field you are and how competitive. If we're talking about, hey, you got hands, and you're saying, hey, I want to be a striker or whatever they call the person that's trying to kick goals, your resume is not really in alignment. You have to match that resume to the goal you want, or people aren't going to really look at your resume. You're just not going to be that competitive. And I'm telling you, cybersecurity has gotten so competitive since I've gotten in. The last 10 years, it's gotten competitive. On top of that, we have all these automated HR systems that are making it very, very difficult for you to get your foot in the door. So these broader resumes, they're not cutting it anymore. You're not going to get attention unless you're giving it directly to a hiring manager. And then we're talking about, hey, how's your networking skills? Are you actually getting out there and meeting people? That's what's going to make the difference. Hey, Blind. All right, man. Great having you here. Watch it later. Let me know in the community if you have any questions. So there's my soapbox. That's my soapbox for the night. Another Login Pacific person. Man. All right. So we interviewed Philippe the other week about this. I don't like the way you guys are conveying this. I do not. I think it is very, I don't want to say disingenuous, but it is very misleading to hiring managers. If they find out that this is all just a lab, but you're conveying it as real experience, real paid experience, they're going to trash your resume probably. Be very, very careful with this. I would lean towards, if you want to put it on there like that, I would lean in there and do it kind of like this gentleman did, Matt. Matt said it's a home lab environment or a lab environment. That is how I would convey it. I know that realistic traffic is being generated, but the difference between working in this lab and then working in the real world is if ransomware ran through this environment, no one cares, right? They'll just rebuild it. But in a real environment, it matters. And that's the difference between that type of environment and saying real life experience. Consequences matter. You're being held to a specific standard. When you're working in these lab environments, no one's really holding you to a standard. You can show up one day, you can not, you can put in as much effort as you want, and it doesn't matter. There's nothing that says any of your work matters in this environment. There's no standard you're being held to, really, right? So keep that in mind. I'm telling you, be very, very careful. You're going to get yourself in trouble here, Harrison. Be very careful. I know they'll do some sort of recommendations, but this isn't like a real environment, as in like it's a real company. So be very careful. Okay, so in SOC incident workflows, investigate advanced security threats, perform vulnerability management or assessments with Tenable. So here's the thing, right? If we're saying you want to do a SOC analyst type thing, right? We would be getting rid of this crap. You don't need that. We don't need this. And we don't need this. Like, no one cares. If you're in the stock, no one cares that you did that. This is the stuff that we care about, right? And I'd like to see you talk about the different types of SIMs you use, the type of query, things like that in here. Again, if this was a lab, and I imagine you have a portfolio because this is a Login Pacific, all of you have a portfolio. Talk more about how you explored this type of subject matter. But again, fine tune this for the role. If you're trying to do a security analyst or a security engineer, some of these other ones may matter less. Like this doesn't really matter. This may matter somewhat, but these are probably going to be more applicable to engineering, depending on the type of engineer. There's so many engineers. There's like every color of the rainbow. There's an engineer. It's insane. All right, so here we go to his actual experience. So company, Neil MD, Strategic Solutions LLC, IT support, promoted from IT support to systems administrator, assuming ownership. Cool. Led migration. Cool. Design, implemented FortiGate VPN. Cool. So not applicable to security. Form 10 group contract, IT field technician. So a lot of field technician stuff. So did he support? We'll go to that in a second. Let's finish going through this. About to ask a fun question. All right, so let's see what certifications he has. Azure Security Engineer, AWS Solutions Architects, this stuff, Pentest Plus, CYSA Project Plus, ITIL certification, foundations. I would say you definitely have a much more, more engineering focused resume. I feel like you would have an easier time getting a engineering role. Let's see. Detection engineering, no. Azure Cloud Security Engineer, probably. Azure, yeah, you'd probably have a decent job at a decent chance at getting one of those. Okay, so CYSA Pentest Plus. So this is good certification if you're doing government stuff. Pentest Plus is like, yeah. I wouldn't really spend money on this for anyone out there. At one point, I was like, yeah, this is good for the soft skills for a pen tester. I still think, potentially that's the case, but I would rather spend my time for working on hands-on stuff for pen testing jobs than doing the soft skills. You'll get soft skills over time. It's not really hard to create a decent report. Most people can figure that out. Let's see, education, BS, Western Governors, good fast program there for you. BA, interdisciplinary social sciences. Okay, so he has a degree. He's got certifications, so he's got that there. But what he doesn't have for cybersecurity, he doesn't have one of those hands-on certifications, which I look for. That's still missing. But he's got good engineering stuff. He doesn't have anything that I would say qualifies him for a detection engineering role. Sorry, bud. That one I would mark off of your list. If you want to do detection engineering, I would say start in the SOC. You're going to be SOC 1. There ain't no way, buddy, you're getting a SOC 2 job. Ain't no way. But SOC 1 role, and then you can pivot to a detection engineer afterwards. Would be a good route for that. Engineering, you may be able to step into an engineering job out the gate. So if you're looking at, if you're liking engineering more, that may be the easiest place for you to get a foot in the door. Just my 2 cents. I'm not an engineer, although I've had an engineer title. I'm not the boring engineer. I'm the fun kind of engineer. I was a chaos engineer at one point, which means I just broke stuff. So like I said, I'm not the boring engineer. I was the fun engineer. Let's see. Again, he's got a lot of stuff here. These, again, I would fine tune for your job listing, so no need to go into those too much. Projects, minor attacks. So here's your projects that I was expecting. I have your link up in the portfolio, so we'll look at your portfolio in a second. And these are, y'all all must do the same exact labs, because I'm pretty sure I see this on every single one of you guys who do Login Pacific. Just saying. Every one of you. I'll answer you in a second. Chips. All right, so would I interview this guy? The answer is no, not for a SOC role. I'm hesitant to say I would interview him for an engineering role because, again, I'm not a real engineer. I imagine they wouldn't mind hiring or at least interviewing someone with this type of resume. He's got good stuff for it. So something to think about there, Harrison. Median salary. I don't know. We can look that up. They kind of range all over the place, though, Harem. They can go from 40 grand in the U.S. all the way up to 100 in some places. It just depends. Yeah, I think I concluded this one well. Lots to work on here. Oh, professional summary. This is what I wanted to get on. This is very misleading. You did not support. You did not. You really, I will say, you misled the hiring manager with this. So this was a disappointing professional summary, not something you want to do. You don't want to disappoint the reader. You want to excite them and be like, oh yeah, this is a great person. Yeah, I agree. I believe it. This is security analyst with 4 years. You're saying you are a security analyst with 4+ years of experience doing security stuff. You are not. You have 4 years of IT experience. Responsible for ensuring data integrity. I think this tagging and all this stuff was for Login Pacific. Nope, you're down here. You're doing data tagging here. Okay, so that's true. Yeah, be very careful with your summaries. All right, so no, I wouldn't interview this for a SOC role. I would say they would be likely to interview for an entry-level cloud engineering role, perhaps. All right, got a couple of questions. Chips has one. Let's throw this up on the screen. Random question, would you recommend a focus on GRC or SOC-related roles, aside from personality-based things like whether you like to be more technical or write policy, etc., mainly focusing on the job growth and ease of access for beginners? Would you go one versus then the other later? So, good question. I would pick one and go down that. They don't intersect well. They do not. It's not like you could probably go from a SOC analyst to GRC maybe later, But if you've done GRC, you're not going to be a stronger candidate for a SOC role. I've hired some of those people, they're horrible. There's no difference between them and a very, very beginner. Um, so they don't intersect. I would pick the one you're actually passionate about and you're willing to study and get good at in preparation for landing that role. So pick whichever one kind of inspires you, motivates you. That's what I would go with, Chips. Um, for me, I hate GRC. I hate compliance. Not my thing. I would be going for the SOC role, which is why we talk about it a lot. But some people love the GRC side of the house. Um, Jerry, Simply Cyber, loves it. I know quite a handful of people who love the compliance aspect. So it just depends on you. But again, I would do whatever you think would make you happy. And if you're unsure, take some short courses, like maybe a 4 or 8 hour course on GRC. Do the same in SOC. See which one you're excited about. Do that one. They both pay, I would say, it's my guess, don't hold me to it. I would say they both pay about the same. I would say GRC, both of them are, well, no, I would say both of them are likely to be affected by AI coming in, probably. I would say maybe GRC more than SOC analyst. SOC analyst tier ones are going to be affected quite a bit, though. So resilience, long-term wise, both of them go. Once you're GRC, you're compliance only. Especially, you're not going to pivot later in your career. Especially if you're mid-career, you're probably not going to pivot and be able to make the same amount of money. SOC analyst, there's a lot of pivoting you can do. In the pivoting in the technical spaces, you're going to be able to make a lot more money. So you could pivot to detection engineering, you could pivot to security engineering, you could pivot to pen testing. There's a lot of technical roles you can pivot to. So if you're more technically inclined, go SOC 1 and then go one of your technical routes. If you like the compliance stuff, go GRC and then stay on that side of the house. Those also lean themselves into a lot of leadership level roles as well, the compliance side. So that's a good space to be in for that as well. Okay, so that's it. We've made it through our resumes. Whew, that's a lot of talking. Let's have a drink break here. I think maybe Albert has something for me. Yeah, let's see if we can get to it at the end. Let's see if Albert did get his in here. So I'm gonna pull Albert's in because he's a cool guy. I know him in real life, so we'll pull his in. Let me do a quick copy, paste in here. He's got dark mode. He's dark and mysterious Albert. All right, let's see. All right, so this is a fun one, folks, because this is one with someone that actually has experience. He's got quite a bit of experience. I just saw your resume the other day. And he's just looking for some feedback on it. So we're going to help him out tonight, and then we'll hop on portfolios. I'll stay on a little bit longer. If we don't have enough time to cover, we'll definitely make sure we get some time to cover portfolio stuff. So let's look at Albert's here. So profile, cybersecurity operations leader with over 20 years of experience directing mission critical defense, incident response, threat hunting functions across DoD, federal, financial, global enterprise environments, proven strategist who elevates cyber readiness for building and mentoring elite security teams, driving process optimization, deploying sophisticated automation. Mouthful there, man. Demonstrated success includes reducing attack surface by 20%, cutting patch cycle times by 50%, and improving QA process efficiency by 90%. Adept at engineering advanced detection and response capabilities using Splunk, Elastic, Microsoft Defender, and XOR to hunt for emerging threats and ensure 100% mission continuity. Now, let's pause. Because I know you, Albert, this is weak for you. You are much better than you're leading on here. Much, much better. And again, depending on what role you're looking for, I don't know if you're going to want to stay leadership, if you want to go back to a technical route, um, whatever. But I would update this accordingly, this summary. And again, you've done quite a bit, and we can talk about it later. I would strengthen the summary. You've done more. You're much better than this. See if you can't strengthen this even more, and maybe even have a couple of paragraphs that you can swap out depending on the job you're looking for, right? So something to think about there. So not bad, but because I know you can do better. Albert's a really good leader, very technical, very good at adapting to the circumstance, figuring out technology, making it work for him. Really good at running projects. There's a bunch of stuff he's really, really good at that people are going to look for that he's not putting in here. So just want to put that, you're shortchanging yourself. All right. So let's look at the certifications. He has a ton here. Way to go, buddy. He's got CISSP, GSEC, GCD, GCIA, GCIH, GPIN, GMIN, GSNA, GCCC, Security Plus, Pentest, CYSA, SecurityX, CEH, Azure Fundamentals, Certified Security Defense Analyst. So you're going to give people some kind of thing, whatever the words are, because you got so many here. You don't need this many to be successful. He's just an overachiever like I am. These are really good. You get to a point professionally where more certifications don't really matter. But he's doing a good job highlighting them at the beginning. These are kind of like his wow factor. Hey, this is me. If he strengthens his resume, boom, in your face, here's all the certifications I've done. This shows that he is, like, if you look at the years here, he's done 1, 2, 3, 4 in 2018, 3 and 4 in 2019, 1 is more, maybe more, but he is consistently improving himself. That's what people do like to see, is that he's doing something every year to get better, to improve his craft, because of the wonderful professional Albert is here. All right, so let's look at his experience. Led full spectrum cybersecurity operations for global CSSP subscribers, initially as an analyst. So one thing already off the rip, so CSSP operations watch battle captain. I always hated this title, but I would change this title, or at least put in parentheses or somewhere a common name for what you do. So you would be, I don't know, like a SOC technical lead, essentially, is what your role is. I would do that. This is kind of the same issue that military folks have, translating their experience into something that everyone else understands. You need to make sure you do the same here with this role. Your other ones look to be fine, but this is a weird job title, and you need to normalize it for the world. Otherwise, they're going to be like, I don't know what a watch battle captain is. So something to think about there. Let's see, initially as an analyst conducting real-time threat triage and log correlation before being promoted to Battle Watch Captain. In the leadership role, the directed incident response across 3 regional operations centers, drove process optimization through automation, custom Splunk dashboards, mentoring watch officers to ensure 100% compliance with the fund CJCSM, led incident response and investigation processes using ServiceNow. I would take out Phoenix, just say ticketing system, aligning actions with CJSM, blah, 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 achieving 100% compliance and reducing average resolution time by 30%. You could probably take out the CJCSM, maybe leave it in there once, but if you're looking at sticking to government space, it might be useful, but if you're in the civilian space, no one cares. No one cares. So just something to think about there. Let me see your bullets, and then I'll critique and see if there's anything else I would have you add here. So I know Albert, he actually is one of my guys. So that's why I'm like, oh yeah, I can critique his resume. I know exactly what he does every day. Drove a 90% improvement in SOC efficiency by engineering custom Splunk. See, I told you this is the dashboard guy I was telling you about. And automating QA processes, which slash alert noise by 45% and cut security analyst time by 30%. Okay. Orchestrated 24/7 incident response across 3 regional operation centers, leading project management, IR life cycles to ensure 100% mission continuity, reduce mean time to resolution by 30%. Okay. Enhance team readiness by spearheading professional development program. Yep, 6 direct reports. That's a good one. I was hoping you put that in here. 30% improvement in technical skills assessment. Cool. And then watch ops analyst optimize threat detection by developing structured incident review process, creating custom Splunk macros, which cut recurring false positive by 45% and reduce average investigation time by 30%. So I would add some more bullets to this. There's a lot more cool stuff you've done for sure. I would lean more if you're looking at doing like incident response type. Depends on the role. Let me backtrack. Depending on the role, if you're looking at doing more IR type stuff, I would talk more about the way you've done the incident response, the way you've helped people get better at it, things like that, the impact you've had, right? When you're talking about leadership roles, you always want to talk in terms of impact that you've had, things that you've done, projects that you've led, and the results that you've had. He's done that pretty decently here. If you're talking about doing engineering or something like that, it's going to be different. Just depends. But definitely tune this one because you've done a lot in this role. Tune it for whatever role you're looking for sure. And you might have set that in Discord. I think you're kind of open to opportunities, if I remember correctly, though. All right, so I was just looking to see if he said what he was doing. Okay, so let's look at some of his other stuff. Let's see, you've been here. Cool. About as long as I was a little bit longer than me on the project. All right, senior cybersecurity engineer, temporary role. So this is really good that he called out temporary role. So this is a mistake some people make. And there are some recruiters that will say, see ya in a heartbeat if they see a bunch of short jobs. They'll be like, I'm good. This guy can't hold a job. He called it out and said it was temporary. And that kind of fixes the issue that they would see if he didn't put that. So I like that he called out it was temporary. It set at expectations that it's going to be short, or at least explain why it's going to be short. Good job. Improved analyst efficiency by 30%, implementing centralized SOC documentation framework and Confluence, enhanced threat detection capabilities by operationalizing advanced threat hunting playbooks, blah, 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 leading to discovery of 20 plus previously undetected high severity threats. That's pretty sick. Good job, man. Not too bad. Not too bad. I feel like you may be able to even strengthen those a little bit more just depending on your next role. But that's still pretty good. Those are pretty wow factors. And it may be one of the ones where you lead, what do they call it? You lead with the story. What do they call it? Anyways, you have that lead up front where you're like, discover 20 plus previous high severity threats by enhancing direction, whatever, where you lead with whatever the hook is or whatever like the wow factor is. Sometimes if you have that wow factor, it's good to throw it kind of in people's face, be like, oh, this is cool. Keep them excited as they read your resume. Something to think about on that one. Not required. It still looks pretty decent. I imagine you're shortchanging yourself just like you did at the ones above. Vulnerability management program manager role was deprecated due to review from Department of Government Efficiency. Oh, Doge. And that also explains why he wasn't there that long. He's explaining away these problems, which is good. Because otherwise people would kind of raise an eyebrow and be like, whoa, this guy just jumps ship. So definitely something to think about. All right, let's see. Vulnerability management program manager. I think we already said that. Patch management, co-organization, attack surface by 20%. These aren't too bad. Not bad. Cybersecurity, threat hunter, incident responder, contractor, another very short one. So he did contract, that kind of answers that as well. You may do something like you did here, talk about how long the contract was, but contract may be enough to kind of limit their hesitancy. Resulting in 30% reduction in false positive through refined detection logic, increased proactive threat mitigation by 40%. You are a man of automation. What can I say? Principal security analyst. This one you were at for a really long time. That's good. Yeah, he'd be in trouble if he didn't have any that he was there for a while at. He'd be in trouble. Enhance alert triage efficiency by leading the implementation of XOR automation. Reduce SOC analyst onboarding time from 6 weeks to 3 weeks. Nice. Improve security visibility by direct minor attack gap analysis initiative. Identified and closed 15 high priority detection gaps. This was a pretty good one. I like that one. Senior information security specialist, which adopted as company-wide standard unifying process per investigation consistency. I'm like mumbling to myself trying to read it fast, but I know people are listening to me, so I need to speak louder. Improve lateral movement detection by leading and tuning IDS signatures in Stealth Watch Net Flow rule, strengthening defense against internal threats. I don't know how I feel about that one. It might be good. It was a long time ago. There may be a way to strengthen that. Because it says tuning. It'd be interesting if you could talk more to how you did that, but you probably don't even remember. But maybe a little bit more meat there. Reduce tier 1 handoff time by 20% by creating a threat correlation workbook that mapped indicators to techniques, accelerating junior analyst investigations. Cool. And then you got some U.S. Army time here. Not very long. Oh, there you go. Oh, this is 2000. 2000 to 2021. Okay. Or, yeah, okay. Sorry, I was trying to read that down. Maybe add some spacing here. It could just be the formatting from the way I'm viewing this. Actually, no, because I'm not. It's just a picture. I would add spaces between these dashes. Just make it a little prettier thing. Reduce detection time by 25%. Did we already do that? No. So as you can see, Mr. Albert here is always chasing efficiency. It's a good thing. I agree. He's I would say if there was a theme, it would be efficiency with automation. Good thing a lot of organizations are looking for that these days. Now, if you could just tie AI in there somewhere, you'd be like killer, man. Let's see, compliance, fun stuff, comprehensive training, foreign government, shape long-term strategy in the Pacific Theater. Okay, fancy, signal, support specialist. Okay. And education, executive certificate, business admin. Cool. Master, I didn't know you had, how do I not remember you having a master's degree? I wasn't talking crap about you, Albert, I swear. He's one of the good master's degree people. Cool. Bachelor's of Science. Cool. Yeah. I mean, at a glance, he has a great resume. He definitely has something where he could lean more into a technical role or a managerial role. He definitely wears both hats. I would say his resume definitely speaks more towards being a technical leader of small teams versus large teams. So something to think about if you're looking at taking on a director role, just depending on what you're looking for. I would lean more into talking about that. how big your teams are. So like this one, I don't know if you have how many members of a team, but that's okay. Oh, 6 there. I would talk about leading larger scale teams. That's what they're looking for director level roles or even senior manager type roles. That's like the civilian equivalent of what you're doing. Um, is you would probably be considered a senior manager, at least in the finance, excuse me, the finance world. So if your next step is a director, you need to show that in here. But I think your resume definitely speaks to a smaller team. So like 6 to 10 type people. I think you could do that, and your resume conveys that no problem. Technical skills, some automation. So this is all just keyword stuffing stuff. Very true. Again, just update this to reflect whatever the job listing is. So I would say overall, Albert, very good resume. You got a couple of areas I would improve. Your current role, for sure, I think you can do better there. A couple of areas you can enhance it a little bit. And definitely your profile. Enhance your profile. You are shortchanging yourself, dude. So make that better. Other than that, definitely, I remember reading this a while back, so I'm pretty sure it is an improvement over that because I think I gave you the same feedback. You were shortchanging yourself. It's very hard, I understand, to talk about yourself and your achievements. Um, I do it all the time. Hey, why don't you ever present? I don't think I do anything that's cool, so I don't present at conferences that very often. I get it. I get it. It's not really imposter syndrome. It's just like I don't think it's that cool, so I don't think other people think it's that cool. But you're definitely cooler than you're making yourself out to be. So there you go. Hopefully that helps out, Albert. So with that, we have concluded our batch of resumes. We'll give you a second pass if we have time. Whoever that was in chat, I forgot who it was. You sent it in the Discord. If not, we can hit it later. I agree. I want him to be my boss's boss too. No, Albert's good people. Good dude. All right. Portfolios. Let's talk about portfolios. So I have a couple of portfolios here. So this one is Harrison's. And he's got a cool picture there. He's got his LinkedIn here. So this is the second to last resume we did where he's talking about all the stuff he did with Login Pacific. Login Pacific, I imagine, coaches you folks to put this stuff out here. And I imagine you're also going to have the same problem that I've seen with all the other ones where you're not really answering the so what question. I don't know who that came from, but it's a really good kind of phrase to ask yourself. So what? You did all this, so what? I did look through this and there's nothing really, and I was looking through your labs and stuff. There's nothing here that really excites me. And I would love for you to excite me. And just simply because you just talk about it, you just do it in a way that just shows it's a lab, but you don't really talk about what you learned. And again, the so what? Who cares? Why did you do this? What did you get out of it? What did you learn? How does this play into the story you're trying to tell? It doesn't really approach that. You have some screenshots, not shops, some screenshots here, but it just gives me the feeling that you just followed a guide. And that's disappointing. Right? I want to see you be successful. I want to see you learning. I want to see you grow. So I'd like to see that. I might change my mind. Hang on. Let me finish reading. I didn't read through this one. Create a custom fields running the following script. Okay. Yep. I still feel the same way. He started out talking about problems he ran into, things he ran overnight. So I thought he was going to get in more detail for projects, right? So in my mind anyways, right? I don't know if it's just me, but I kind of differentiate labs from projects, and that projects are long term. We're talking about weeks and weeks of effort that you're putting in to build something. Where a lab is something you do in like maybe a couple of days, maybe a week, right? Like I've had some, like during the OSCP and OSCP, there I've had labs that took me a week, right? It just took me that long to overcome whatever the lab was. But projects should be long term, right? In that time, you should have learned a ton of things that make you more employable. And with these, the way you're writing it up, you should be able to convey why they're making you more employable. I don't think these labs that you guys are doing in Login Pacific are doing you justice. I think you could follow along with their lab and then add on to it, and then that would become a project. But I think these are just labs. I think you're just doing labs. Um, I would like for you to also talk more about your journey. Think maybe blog style, where you're talking about these are the things I'm learning along the way, problems that I had, be a little bit of vulnerable with your stuff, but talk about it. Make someone excited. If I'm gonna go through here, I'm gonna look at one, maybe two if you're lucky, and then I'm gonna stop looking. Like here's another one that may be of interest for a SOC analyst. Yeah, I see a good network map, but I just see you do a handful of steps, something that maybe took an hour. An hour isn't a project, that's a lab. Again, something to think about. These are labs, not projects. There's nothing in these that differentiates it from doing a course, doing a Try Hack Me lab, or doing a lab in college. These are labs. They're not projects. Projects, again, are longer term. So, not that great of a portfolio. I would improve this. Let's look at some other examples. So, I'm still Mr. Poison Arrow Cams. He did a really cool one, and I like to show his off. You have inspired me, Cam, to build one similar to yours. I think yours is sick. The colors, the layouts, all that stuff are super sick. I know you're still building it, but I do want to show it off. And he says it's a living record, but he has like feature projects he's done. He has all of his certifications here. I imagine they link to it. He has articles, like his curated reading list. Like this shows me someone that's continuously talking about the things they're doing. This is cool, right? This is like literally a true portfolio for a cybersecurity practitioner. Articles, labs, projects, all the things that tell you about who Cam is in here. This is cool. Not only that, but you can't tell by looking at this, but he built this. He put this together. This was an AI project. Hopefully he lists this in his projects that he did. I don't see it in here, but he did. He built this with AI. So this is a really, really cool way to do it. He has his contact information. It's a fun, responsive website. Super cool. Super cool. All right, so these are just ones he's read, but I would also add like blogs or whatever, like keep building, whatever you want, right? But very cool. I want to be you when I grow up, Cam. I have no web presence except for my LinkedIn at the moment. Oh, I have that crappy website I haven't done anything with, but yeah, very cool. Very cool. Let's look at another one. So this is another one that I came across in just some random person's portfolio on the internet. So this looks pretty similar to what other folks are doing, right? That we've seen from Login Pacific, where well, his links aren't even working. Okay, his links don't work. Except his links don't work. At least their links work. But it seems very in line with the stuff. Talk about tools, but it's just really not doing you justice. Like I see it. It's not that cool. Not that cool. This looks like AI.md files. So just small little labs that he did. It's just a play on words, right? Projects versus labs is a play on words, and whatever, do whatever. But what you do want to do is convey that you're doing something, you're getting better significantly, and the information that you've learned is going to be valuable to the organizations you're applying for. That's kind of, in summary, that's what the so what is. Let's take a look at another one. So this is another one that's kind of cool, that I came across. I was just looking for them before I hopped on. So again, another responsive one, kind of like Cameron's. We'll go to the top, but he has like all his different links. He has a CSV there. I don't know if I'd put my CSV open to the public like that, but teach his own. Here's his little portfolio. He's talking about what he's doing. Here's all of his experience in a quick, easy to COA. I don't know what the awards are, maybe from Bug Bounties. Don't know. He has his experience here. CTF player. Someone else at CTF. Bug crowd research. So the point is, this is more of what I would expect when I see a portfolio, or when I think portfolio. This is the type of stuff I'm looking for. I would love to see that you're writing blogs, that you're doing stuff, you're building up who you are as a practitioner. And that is a big story to tell, right? For those who are in more of the dev space, the engineering space, they're probably going to want to see like your GitHub projects for sure. Again, and they probably don't really care about like forks you've done and other people's things, and you've added like one line of code. No one cares about that. But if you've truly built something that works, that does something cool, they'll definitely love to see that type of thing. Improvements, you adding commits to other major projects. Really, projects and things you can do can encompass so many things. There's so many things you can do. It just has to tell the story again. And I feel like a broken record almost, that what you've done makes you better and can serve the organization you're applying to well. That's what you're trying to convey. Not just, here's some random stuff I did. I spent an hour on each. Doesn't really tell a story. Because learning and building skills takes more than an hour, right? It takes a lot of hours, right? I think the OSCP certification took, I don't know how many hours. A ton of hours. I don't know, it probably took 120 plus hours of study time. But building out, like I'm building out a bunch of automations with AI, with Codex right now. That's probably, I don't know, I've probably invested 5 or 6, probably more, probably 10 or 12 hours in it now. But that's a long-term project. I'm building automations out, ways to help me with content and editing and all these things. Building dashboards, that's a project. It's cool. I am treading new ground because it's not something someone else has done. It's a project completely inspired by my own needs. And so I'm learning a lot along the way as I build it out. These are projects. Projects aren't, you're just following a list, right? It's the difference between an IKEA furniture build versus you watching a YouTube video and building the furniture piece by yourself, like from raw materials. There's a big difference, big difference. So I want you to keep that in mind, right? Are you doing an IKEA furniture? Or are you doing you're in your garage building it from raw materials furniture? So think about that. Let's look at another one. So here's another pretty famous content creator in Hacker out there, Hacks for Pancakes. She has her own blog. I wanted to show hers because it's not anything fancy. Hers doesn't look as fancy as these other people's, but she's obviously has a top blog. She's sharing. She's spending more time on the content than she is on the website itself. No offense, Leslie. But it's good stuff, right? She's sharing with the community. She's sharing human honeypots. So she's doing things that that make the community better. And she's talking about it, right? She's writing blogs. These are back when humans actually wrote blogs. That's cool stuff. That's really cool stuff. Things to think about. She has all of her stuff here, all of her fun stuff here, all of her talks. These are things she did. You don't have to have 50 million talks like her. Just make the world a little bit better than when you found it. How about that? Yeah, so I think that can be the last one. Open to questions. We got about 6 minutes left. Um, Someone asked me what type of projects, Captain Black. Did you want me to look at your stuff? I just like really squirrel brain for a second. Let's see. Let's see. Someone gave me something else. I can't read thick content on the podcast yet, because I'm like copying all this stuff over to my VM. Image 3. Give me a second, and I will pull this over. We'll look at this updated resume real quick. May as well. May as well. Number 3. Here we go. Yeah. So if you have questions, drop them in chat. Projects can be anything. It's, you have all these influencers out there saying these are must-do projects. Must do, must do, must do. Do something that you've been inspired to do, something that you can tread new ground on, something that you're going to be able to say, hey, there wasn't a lot holding my hand here. There is a lot I had to figure out along the way. There's a lot of personal growth I've had along the way. And here's what I did. Here's evidence that I grew. Now let's talk about it in an interview. This is a great conversation starter. That's pretty much what you're doing with your projects, okay? They don't have to be anything crazy that a lot of people are shooting for here. All right, here is a very short one-pager. Wow, good job. It's actually a really clean one-pager too, so I am surprised about that. Typically, people find it really hard to put stuff in a one page. The only concern I have with the one pages like this is that the formatting may completely screw up the resume parsing tools. I've read, and I don't have any tools to try. I've read that these break. It's better to do like a normal, more simplistic ones, like some of these other ones we've been looking at, because it won't break the parsers. Just a thought, because I used to do it like this, and I changed because I didn't want to screw myself. So just a thought there. Let me see. There we go. Modify the layout and some stuff you said, but don't really know what more to add to the CTF section. Let's see. Let's take a peek at it. So tell me about the CTF, Gru. Did you win? Did you just do a couple of problems? Like, did your team win? Was this a really hard CTF? Did you only do the easy problems? Tell me a little bit more about the CTF in chat, please. Overall, I would say human reading wise, this is very easy to look at with my eyes. So you did a really good job condensing a lot of information into a one pager. You did a really good job there. So applaud. Really hard. Now, did they rate them as hard, or did they rate them as easy? Because that's a difference. Or did they not have ratings? Because usually they do. Usually they do. Hard. Okay, cool. You did 3 rooms. There were 20. You could say something like completed, whatever that percentage is. So that's what, 30. It's 3 out of 20. What is it? 15% of the rooms. Is my math right? So 15% of the rooms in a team event could be a way to say it, and you could talk about some of them maybe. Yeah, I mean, I know you're trying to fill up stuff. I mean, you could do it as a bullet here. Completed 15% of the challenges for my team. Or if your team didn't complete all 20, you could say something. Yeah, you could play with it, right? You want to make it sound good if it was good. If they're hard rooms, it is valid to put it on here. Like CTFs can be very hard. I don't know, folks listening, if you've done any of the CTFs, some of them get really freaking hard. Could play with the numbers, like completed 15% of them, or if your team did 10 of them and you did 3 out of the 10, you could say completed 30% of my team's of provided 30% of my team solutions, 15% of the overall CTF questions. You just want to make it sound good. You want to make it sound true, but good at the same time. Aspiring SOC analyst, practical experience in threat detection, triple certified, deployed Azure, Sentinel honeypots, blah, 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 former QA. Okay. Trying to see if there's anything else I want to look at here for you. Try Hack Me piece. Completed 50 hands-on labs, network forensic incident response, achieving 5% global ranking. That's good. You know, people give a lot of crap to folks putting their percentage ranking. I think it's a good kind of little ad to put that in here. So cool. Hands-on labs using Wireshark, Snort, IDS, applied cybersecurity. Okay, so you did complete SOC learning path. Cool. Cool. That was one of the things. I'm trying to remember all the things I told you. It's been 2 hours. It's been 2 hours, 5 resumes. Ooh, it's tough. Cool. In that case, I'm okay with this. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's a better way to strengthen this. Because you completed the path. There's a lot more that you did in here than you're talking about, but you're kind of handpicking the stuff that you want to talk about, which is fine. But I'm trying to think if there's a way to really strengthen that section for you to make it stand out and really talk towards the types of stuff you learned. Yeah, I mean, you could maybe do. Complete a Mr. Robot CTF. Maybe take that last bullet out and do something else. So, like, you have one related to network stuff. Maybe do one bullet talking more about the types of like endpoint detection or endpoint work that you've done. That may round it out more. I do like to see offensive stuff when I look at resumes, but doing one offensive lab isn't going to make or break anything, right? That's not a big value. Like, okay, cool, he did one, whatever. But because, like, if you did a handful, that may be a bullet in itself, right? Of labs, you could add a separate bullet, but probably something on endpoint, because I think you did malware analysis stuff. You did a little bit of forensic stuff. You've done a ton of SIM stuff. So talk more about endpoint stuff, maybe. Cool. Other than that, not too shabby. Good stuff. All right. So a little bit over. That was a lot of resumes tonight, folks. A lot of resumes. But really good stuff. I like seeing what people are working on, what they're doing. And again, I'm here to help you, well, set you up for success. Some of the feedback may be a little bit tough, right? You know, I know people have put a lot of hard work into some of these things they've done, the labs, the projects, and whatnot. But you know, a hiring manager is going to look at that time a little bit differently than you. And so that's the perspective I'm trying to give you. And when you look at your stuff, you know, ask yourself, what would a hiring manager see when they look at my resume? And the big keyword or the big phrase of the night, and so what, right? So ask yourselves those things when you're designing your resumes, when you're working on your portfolio. Maybe we'll get some more work where we actually build out a portfolio. And we can use mine, for instance. Maybe we'll build out a portfolio for me. and we can see what that looks like and maybe do a sample student portfolio as well. And maybe I can share some of the formatting and templates for that also. So, at the end of the day, to bring it back to the very beginning of this, right? Most people think they don't have certifications and it makes their resume weak. That's not always the case. It could be tweaking, like in Albert's case. He undersold himself for sure. And then we had quite a few people with good resumes. But we also had people who didn't structure their resume for the job they're applying for, which means their resume is weak for the thing they're actually looking to get hired for. So a lot of stuff comes in the picture. It's just not certifications, although they definitely play a piece in the game of getting hired. We have one last question. Oof, what do you think about having a picture? So this is a fun question. Let me put this in on the stream. HR will tell you not to have a picture on your resume. That is a big no-no for them. So don't put it on. Leave it off. Because, and the reason why is there, at least in the U.S., there's a law against judging people by their age, by their color, all these things, right? And it makes it very hard to do that when they see a picture of you. And I know people are saying, hey, but we have their LinkedIn. Yes, but they're not supposed to look at that when they're making a determination of whether or not to put you through the pipeline. Leave that off. Don't put any reference to your age, your religion, any of that stuff on your resume, because they're not going to want to look at it for that reason. I've heard of some people are like trashing them with that on there. It's a weird game. Don't put it in there. You're making an awkward experience for everyone. But some people do. Some people some people who are super creative will do that. But I've heard, and this isn't me saying this. I've heard HR people tell me, people need to stop doing this. This is what they've conveyed to me. They're the professionals. I still need to get an HR person on the stream or the C-Suite Cyber podcast so we can ask questions like this. This is a really good question to have them answer and to put out there. But there are definitely laws to protect people, to make sure everyone has a fair shot of getting a job. So cool. Good question. Way to end the stream on a very was it a hot topic? Way to go, Gru. Way to go. Yeah, so Chips, this is, I don't know how frequently we're going to do resumes. We usually do resumes whenever we get them. We probably won't do a big batch like this, but maybe, I don't know, maybe once a month or so. I'm sure a lot of people want to see the technical stuff we do too. But if there's one resume, we can definitely get it in on the week. And I will prioritize new resumes versus ones I've looked at for sure. But yeah, keep them coming in. Definitely drop them in the community, and we'll keep giving you ad hoc feedback, especially if I just looked at yours. We can coax you in the community, give feedback. But with that, thank you everyone for watching. This was fun, good stuff. Hopefully folks got some stuff out of it. Again, if you're not shared, subscribe, all that stuff, make sure you're doing that when we put out new videos. We're moving to 2 videos a week of content, and of course 1 stream a week. So 2 videos, 1 stream, 1 community, weekly projects, or weekly short projects, monthly longer form projects. So we're building that community out. So join us. I'll see you next week here on the InfoSec Wizard live stream. Bye, everyone.